Rachel Buck. I am an assistant professor at Brigham Young University. Brand new, and my position just started in January. So I'm excited to be here with you today.
Congratulations on your moving up through the levels of academia. What comes next after you get this one? Is it associate professor, then there's full professor? Shed some of
Yeah.
the light on what that path is like for people who may be just starting out.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, just prior to this, I did a postdoc. So I did an NSF postdoc fellowship in biology, and I did that with Ben Abbott here actually at BYU. And right now I'm an assistant professor, and after 6 years, I'll go up for like BYU's equivalent of tenure. They call it continuing faculty status. And then I would move to associate professor. And then after a million more years, like another 6 years, then I can go up for full professor. So,
We're going to talk about some of the specific research you're doing and involved with the cluster and all that sort of stuff, but it's a great opportunity to talk about the benefits of working in academia. You could take your skill sets and go like into the private sector, or do work for the government or non-governmental organizations. Why education?
Oh yeah. So the first reason that I love being in academia is just because I love working with students. It's definitely my favorite part of my job is working with students, mentoring, and like especially doing field work and work in the lab, that kind of one-on-one research experience I love. And I also love the freedom that academia gives you to chase after like research that you want to do and get funding, and you're kind of there's a lot of independence with it, like some high expectations as well, but definitely like some flexibility and independence in what you want to research and how you want to set up your lab. So yeah.
What a great way to sort of like, I am shaping my own identity and existence in this world and can really make it your own. You study so many things. And one of the things you part of the big data cluster, you collaborate with one of the other clusters of people in the dust cluster. They're doing source to sink movement of mineral dust through the critical zone. How did you find yourself in the middle of these Venn diagrams of these different research fields?
Sure. Yeah. So I did my bachelor's and my master's degree in environmental science with a really strong focus on soil science. And then when I went to do my PhD, I started getting into a lot of water quality work and studying wetlands and a lot of biogeochemistry, which I feel like is just kind of in the mix and really crosses a lot of disciplines. And so I've had the opportunity to work on a lot of different kinds of projects that is really exciting. So
You are based in a state that is talking a lot about water resources and water sources and long-term, somehow national landmark water sources. We're not really going to get into some of the debates and the nitty-gritty. That is all out there for people to read. Did you ever expect that you would sort of be involved in some of these really high-level, very important community-centered science research policy making ideas?
yeah, I mean, I don't think that's something I really thought about when I was setting out and starting my PhD, but I think everybody does want to do something that's meaningful and valuable and important. And I had an opportunity earlier this year to do research, kind of shift gears and do another area. And I decided not to because I just felt like the Great Salt Lake is such a crisis right now that I want to give all my attention to studying like projects related to the Great Salt Lake and water quality here just at the moment. So
Does that fulfill the part that is in all of us of wanting to make a difference in the communities that mean a lot to us?
yeah, I mean, I think in part it does. I feel like I'm contributing to a very important environmental and ecological issue here. On its own, I don't think it like totally comes full circle to do it because like one thing that's so important to me is working with students. And like one thing that's been really rewarding is Utah State has this really cool program that's the Native American student mentorship program that I have gotten to participate in just only a couple of times, but where they take students from their Blanding campus and bring them to the main campus in Logan. And I've been able to work with those students on a lot of my projects, and it's been so cool. Just to like get to know those students and learn other perspectives, especially about ecology, and like those kind of experiences are really fulfilling.
You're talking a little bit about something that's very important to the big data cluster sort of philosophy of science and research, which is this team science idea. You bring a lot of people together, you spend time listening. And the thing that you just mentioned is this movement over the past 10, 15, 20, 25 years for more indigenous knowledge and indigenous science
Mhm.
and place-based science. What was that like for you to open your mind and expand your ideas of what that science could be? What was that experience like for you as a researcher?
Yeah. I think for me it was just like really eye-opening to just get to understand another perspective a bit more, because I think especially in traditional science, the way you learn is just very like systematic, and just to hear a perspective that's kind of more flexible and more maybe like long term, and thinking about trends like over very long periods of time rather than more short term. Um, yeah, and learning to see like the intrinsic value and everything, like just the way that some of the students that I worked with like really respected water and just like the majesty of the environment. I thought was really amazing. Actually, it was a really cool experience.
That what I'm hearing from you saying that is that the students change you as a teacher.
Mhm.
It's a really, really collaborative circuit between
Yeah,
teaching, learning, learning, and teaching.
yeah. And I love what you said earlier too, of this like team aspect and idea, because I started to think now, like whenever I'm working on a project and I'm hitting a wall or something just seems too hard, it's like I'm doing it wrong because I'm trying to do it by myself. Because there is somebody who has that expertise who can help, and it's just so much easier to lean on other people and get that expertise and probably learn how to do something in a way that would be better than me trying to figure it out on my own. It's really life changing, actually. It's just a different mindset that I think just works better.
That makes me think about this another sort of idea that's moving around out there in the science world of open research and open data and
Mhm.
open science, and not like, no, let me know when you want my journal article or share, but really putting it out there. Is that something that you've seen change during your time as a student and something that you aspire to do more of yourself?
Yeah, I think I have seen that change. I've seen just a lot more collaboration, like the further I've gotten on, and maybe that's because I see more science now than I did as a student, but it does seem like people are less siloed. And even here, so at BYU, I'm in the biology department, and we have just this big giant lab space that's a lot of shared space, and it really like fosters this collaborative environment that's really nice.
It must be nice. Walk outside. Oh, there's a geologist over there. And talk to me quickly about the importance of water as part of the critical zone. Critical zone, everything from the bedrock to the treetops, the layer of the
Mhm.
Earth's surface that supports human life and other life on planet. But water always comes back to like is it the core of the critical zone,
Mhm.
would you say? And maybe
Yeah.
it's your bias because you love water so much.
I'm totally biased, but I would say absolutely yes. I mean, water, water is needed for life, and it also plays a role, especially like from my point of view from wetlands. I'm always thinking about water. How deep is the water? How long has the water been there? Like, how is this changing the conditions in the soil? Like, what is the oxidation reduction potential of the soil because of how much, how long the water has been here, how long it's been flooded, and things like that. Those are things I'm always thinking about, and water really controls um like where where things are, where the redwood trees can only grow where there's enough water and the conditions for them to grow. So it's just such a like controlling factor in the environment, and yeah, really connects. I think of it as like connecting things. Like when you think about the critical zone and like water going like from like the roots to the tops of the trees and being like, I don't know, connecting the ecosystem. Yeah.
Water is a pretty amazing thing. It does a lot of things. It freezes, it falls from the sky, we drink it. When you, as a person who thinks about water a lot, when you go to the tap and you pull out a glass of water, are you thinking more about hydrating yourself or all of the things that might be in the water itself?
You know, sometimes I do get thinking about the water itself. There was even like locally where I'm from, there was a little, they switched the well source of the water. And so there's just been a lot of talk, like the taste of the water changed. So that makes people feel really uncomfortable a lot. So I actually tested my own water recently, had to get the lowdown on everything. But I don't know. I do think about those kinds of things a lot.
Did you post the test results in
How
your
much
community
calcium
Facebook group? You're like, hey, here's the latest data from what you're drinking today.
Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned as we were talking that you've worked and collaborated with another member of the big data cluster who is really, really prominent in their field, Lily, as a hydrologist
Mhm.
based at Penn State. And one of the
Mhm.
things that I've talked with her about is the importance of uplifting and raising sort of women in STEM. Have you felt
Mhm.
that from her and worked with that experience with her? And what was that like
Mhm.
for you?
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. So Lily has been such a cheerleader for me on this project. It's been amazing. So when this project first started that I'm working on right now, I was a PhD student and I was applying for this fellowship, this NSF fellowship, and she I when I asked her to collaborate with me, I didn't know her at all. I just kind of I knew her through Ben Abbott, but she immediately agreed to work with me and met with me right away. And she has just such enthusiasm and excitement about science, that's like really contagious and really it's just like very pleasant and like just makes all the work better, I think. Um, and she's also like very bright and extremely helpful. So she helped me make a plan to we're going to be making a reactive transport model to just jump into the science, but she's helping me put that together. So it's
That
been great.
I'm curious. We could talk all day. I'm trying to limit to a couple more questions, but the thing that you said
Yeah.
really caught my attention. I want to ask about that.
Mm-hmm.
In the collaborative field of science and environmental science, you probably see names a lot in the papers and the research that you're doing. And then it
Mm-hmm.
comes to like, I would like to work with this person. Who
Mm-hmm.
am I just to give them an email and ask them about it? How do you overcome that feeling of imposter syndrome or
Mm-hmm.
like to have the confidence in yourself to reach
Mm-hmm.
out and just say, hey, I'd like to work with you? What's that
Yeah.
like?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great question. Um, I think for me, it just comes down to like, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? Maybe they'll just ignore me or they won't want to work with me. That's okay. That's okay if that happens. But in my experience, if you it certainly helps if you have somebody who can kind of introduce you. But if you're just kind of going in cold, I think just making sure you've like read up on the person and you can tell them exactly why they can be helpful to you. And not just like a vague, hey, I could use your help. I'd like to work with you on this. I think if it's specific, like I know that you have expertise in building this kind of model, and here's what I want to do. And do you want to collaborate with me? Or, whatever it is. I think that's been helpful for me.
Just making that leap.
Yeah, just do it.
The last question I'll ask you, at least this time around, is
Mhm.
you're starting out, you're at this part in your career with hopefully years, decades to go ahead, at a
Mhm.
time when the Earth system itself is facing such crisis and such change. How do you stay hopeful as a person and a scientist when you see the data every day of our crumbling environment around us?
Ooh, yeah, that's really tough. Um, mm, I think for me, I just try to use that as like encouragement of like, this is really important, that this work that we're doing right now, and we're doing whatever we can to improve things, and then like really celebrate all of the small wins along the way. Like here in Utah this year, I'm really celebrating how much snow we have. And it's not, this year by itself is not going to fill up the Great Salt Lake, but I'm going to be happy that we have the water we do for now, and I'm hopeful that I am really encouraged, like especially here, just that the interest that everyone is taking in the lake. Like I think it was Ben, or I don't know, somebody was telling me that they just were walking through the airport and they just overheard like two people just talking about like, oh, what's the level in the Great Salt Lake today? Like the average person is like on board and interested in what's going on. And I think that's a win. And I think that we move from there and just find things to celebrate.